Is this bright enough? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about why shame is the root of all evil. I think that when it comes to shame, it's not something that everybody automatically realizes. It's sort of a conditioning, especially if you've been through trauma or some form of abuse or bullying. Society, your perpetrators or most people have an immediate reaction to any form of speaking up about your negative experience or your negative feelings as if it's taboo. And in a way, when somebody invalidates how you feel, it's a form of shame. But a lot of people don't realize that the reason why it's so hard for you to process your traumas, it's so hard for you to accept your feelings, it's so hard for you to experience any sort of negativity, is because inside of you, in your brain, you're kind of conditioned into feeling like any form of expression, speaking up about it, or just even feeling any sort of negativity, like it's not negative, but you think it's negative. Hence the reason why I'm using like negative, like feeling sad or being triggered, being angry, being anxious, having fears of any kind, and your emotions, they're very vast, and if we were not meant to have them, we wouldn't have them. It's just depending on how you grew up, how your environment shaped you. I think everybody kind of knows this, but I don't really think people really truly think about how trauma shapes shame and how shame shapes your entire life. The reason why people have this sort of like victim mentality, or in some situations they might be the perpetrator, and so they always think that they have to be the victim of every situation, but in reality, like, that's not how it works. And that's why black and white thinking is such a big thing. And like most people, especially if you survive trauma, I think like shame is not talked about a lot because you don't really think about it, consciously, like, oh, this is shame. When you experience something, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have felt that, like, and you're kind of conditioned into believing and gaslighted basically into believing that whatever you felt wasn't right, or that you should just take away the pain. You shouldn't feel that way. You should just get over with it, or you have like a time limit of how long you can process your traumas. And that's also a lot of the reasons why you'll probably experience people who they themselves invalidate their own emotions, and because they invalidate their own emotions, like, they invalidate yours, and they were probably also invalidated by somebody in their life. Abusers condition their victims into believing that the abuse is normal and it's just a part of the relationship that they have. It could be your family, it could be bullies, which is literally what abuse is, just different forms of abuse. And that's why a lot of people, when you talk about your experiences online, or you talk about your experience in general with anything, they always need to make assumptions. They always need to, find something wrong with what you're saying. And then, for example, if you got hit by a car, and you're the pedestrian, and it's literally a walking sign, right? Like, the car hits you because they're irresponsible, and there's literally cameras to show for their irresponsibility, and you could have passed away because of this, or have a fatal injury. At the end of the day, you're not the one in the wrong. You were the person that was driving the car was the one that was in the wrong because they weren't following the rules, and instead of being careful, they hit you instead. So people redirect the blame onto the victim, which is called victim blaming. Like saying that, oh, the victim was supposed to be doing all these other things, and the reason why they're a victim is because they put themselves in that spot, instead of holding the perpetrator accountable for their actions and being like, well, you should have been careful. You should have been careful, not the person that was supposed to walk and they were allowed to walk. Say like money is the root of all evil, and well, that's debatable, but it is true. Even with money, rich people, the government, whatever, like, will convince you by using shame, which is a tactic to get you to, consume these unnecessary products that you don't need to consume, make you feel like if you don't pay for this subscription or healthcare, you're not going to get good doctors, you're not going to get a good whatever it is, and actually you get the short end of the stick, but you are conditioned into it, just accepting it because you're shamed for retaliating. A lot of people, when they talk about self-love, when they talk about self-confidence, it's always rooted from a self-defense mechanism, and the way that they express how you should feel about yourself, why you care so much about what other people think about you. They just tell you to stop. Like, girl, that's not gonna do it. If that was that easy, don't you think like we would have stopped caring? These gurus, they use shame because they themselves have inner judgment. And I know that they don't like to admit that because you're supposed to feel confident in yourself. You're supposed to be bold. But self-confidence isn't about how you look like on the outside. Self-confidence isn't about being a bitch. Self-confidence isn't about shaming people or shaming yourself or, you know, being tough or showing tough love. Because constructive criticism isn't just criticism. It's actually helping that person by taking what you think that they should improve and give them actual steps to do said things. Young men, boys, when they look at red pill, they feel insecure because a lot of these people who are talking about like negative things about themselves, about how you should look like, I think that's black pill, or like black pill, whatever pill you're taking, it's obviously poisoning you because it doesn't make you feel any better about yourself. But if you have to go out of your way to pick on people, nitpick somebody's looks, maybe you're not confident, because fixing your looks isn't gonna fix your personality or your self-esteem. Because clearly, I think a lot of people don't realize like self-confidence does not come from just how you look like and your appearance. Sure, it's gonna make you feel better, why not? But self-confidence is about the belief that you can do it, that you can love yourself despite, I don't know, haters, despite people being insecure, being that rebel for yourself. That's confidence. Confidence is also about knowing that some days you might not feel good, and that's okay. That's which is also called self-love. Self-love isn't about taking bath bombs. It's not just taking care of yourself on special days, on your rest days. It's also about, resting during your mundane days. Not looking at the screen all day. It's choosing the uncomfortable choices that you know is good for you, and cutting out any toxic people, toxic behaviors that you do that are self-sabotaging. That's self-love, and that's how you build self-confidence, because you care about yourself and you listen to yourself. But a lot of people think like self-confidence is so easy and you just, stop caring about what other people think. Like you're supposed to know that you're a bad bitch already. Like that's not how it works. Our brains are complex, and depending on how you grew up and your traumas, it will shape how you think about yourself. Hence why I said that shame is the root of all evil. And that's why it's so hard for a lot of people to actually take that step to love themselves, because they don't know what it looks like, and all they are left with is shame. And then when you experience insecurity, you think it's taboo, and that's the most annoying thing I think about self-help gurus, is that they think like being insecure is taboo, and they make it seem like being insecure is like, oh, no, you can't be insecure, that's so stupid of you to be insecure. But like everybody's insecure, and clearly they're insecure too, because you're insecure about being insecure, and that's where shame comes from. You shame yourself for being insecure. You shame yourself for feeling fear, for not going for the things that you could have gone. You shame yourself for self-sabotaging. You probably shame yourself right now that you probably shame yourself for shaming yourself. Like you feel bad for feeling bad, and that's okay. I do it too, and it's really hard to overcome when everybody else around you is conditioned into believing that if you're not tough, like if you're not hard as a rock and you're not nonchalant, and you care too much, then you're too sensitive, then you're doing too much, you're, I don't know, overthinking, you're too paranoid. But I think the reason why a lot of people also have anger issues is because they shame themselves for getting angry or for feeling anything negative. So their immediate response is to suppress their emotions, and the more you suppress, the bigger the problem. Okay, the bigger the hurdle, because when something small happens to you, then you get ticked off and then you explode, and that's why some people have anger issues. And I think the most nonchalant people are the most chalant people, because shame doesn't allow you to regulate your emotions, and because you don't know how to regulate, that's why some of these people, like when they're driving and stuff, they get upset and start, I forgot what it's called, like, crazy people basically. That's why crazy people driving, hitting each other, tailgating. I see those videos on my For You page all the time. And people who don't know how to regulate their emotions often project it onto others, and it's a cycle. And it's a cycle you need to break, because before you do anything else, you have to recognize that what is holding you back isn't the materialistic. It's not the materialistic things. It's not having a partner. It's not what you wear. It's not maybe what you think you need. Besides having patience for yourself and unlearning the shame that you were conditioned to. To get you to feel insecure about yourself. So when you start questioning why you can't be like this, why you can't look like this, why you don't have this career that they have while they're running a pyramid scheme, why you're not a billionaire like them even though they are a fraud, why you don't look like them even though they have a lot of money for the materialistic things that you see that they have, or they have plastic surgery or some form of enhancements that are not natural. So I just wanted to add that, because I feel like some people need to know that, like, shame is just a tool, and when you realize it's a tool, you realize you have power over that, and you can change it. You have power to change your life, and you can make choices to be better, and to feel better about yourself. Because if you get to choose to not hate yourself, wouldn't you choose that? Why spend all that time chasing unrealistic things? You know it's unrealistic. 99% of people are so-called normal, and we all have trauma, and we all experience shame. We're not that different from each other, besides how we look like. So refocus your energy onto actually making yourself better and to feel better. If you can choose to not feel bad about yourself, to not feel insecure, why not work on that? It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to complain. It's easy to look at other things instead of focusing at yourself. It's easy to blame other people. It's easy to blame society, but we are society. And maybe you don't care about society or whatever, maybe you just care about yourself. So care about yourself. So actually take that time to, maybe journal, recognize your thought patterns. How do you feel? Why do you feel this way? Is there some form of experience or explanation that made you feel like this was triggering for you? You can choose to feel miserable all the time, or you can choose to work on that, because it's easier said than done, yeah, but it's also easier to take the easy way out. And you know what the easy way out is, whatever it is, depending on your situation, or you can work for it. A lot of these self-help, self-improvement gurus, when they say these motivational things, it's not very motivational. I feel like it's like judgmental in a way, and it doesn't make you feel motivated. It just makes you feel like, damn, I feel bad for not being like this, for not being the epitome of a perfect angel, when you're just human, and you have to accept that you're human. Like, we want to be everything else except human, only when we want to be better than other species. So you might be your biggest op, and that's also alright. Like, nobody else is your biggest enemy unless you let them. be your biggest enemy, but nobody else lives your life, and nobody else chooses the choices for you unless you let them. And maybe you're confused, but anyways, my cat is cute.